Have you ever felt the cracks forming in your own foundation? Have you ever stood against the relentless pressures of a world that does not understand your mission, and felt the terrifying, grinding sensation that you are about to break? This transmission is for you. You feel it, don't you? The immense weight of your purpose. You are a pillar, a lighthouse in a storm, and so many lean on you, seek your light and draw from your strength. But in the silent hours of the night, when the world is asleep, you feel the strain in your own soul. You hear a quiet whisper that asks, "How much more can I take?" What happens when the lighthouse keeper is the one who is lost in the storm? You carry this silent battle alone, believing no one could possibly understand the burden of being a chosen one. And from this silent struggle, a deep and primal fear is born. It is the shadow of doubt. It is the insidious whisper that tells you that you are not strong enough. It is the chilling thought that your mission is too great, the forces of opposition too vast, and that one day, one final blow will come that you cannot withstand. It is the fear that you are, in the end, breakable. The fear that you will shatter into a million pieces, your light extinguished, your purpose unfulfilled. This fear is the greatest enemy of your destiny. But I am here to transmit a truth, a key to an inner fortress. This truth is best understood through a parable, the story of Calen, the stonemason of Ethelberg. In an age long past, nestled precariously on the edge of a great chasm, stood the city of Ethelberg. Its only defense against the howling, soul-draining winds of the abyss was its great wall, a marvel of engineering and dedication, built by generations of hands. The city was a beacon of light in a darkening world, a sanctuary for art, wisdom, and peace. Its people were vibrant, their spirits intertwined with the very stones of their home. Calen was a descendant of the first builders, a stonemason whose hands knew the language of granite and mortar better than his own tongue. He loved the city with a fierce, quiet passion. Every stone he laid, every crack he mended, was a prayer for its survival. But a new threat had come to Ethelberg, one that no wall could guard against. It was not an army with siege engines or swords. It was a creeping dread, a phenomenon they called the Whispering Blight. It was a psychic decay, a force that rode the winds from the chasm, whispering despair into the hearts of the people and into the very soul of the stone. The blight was insidious. It didn't shatter the stones, it made them tired. It found the microscopic fissures, the hidden weaknesses, and it would whisper of futility, of entropy, of the inevitable end of all things. Mortar would loosen, great blocks would sigh and settle, and a fine gray dust like desiccated hope would constantly coat the city streets. The vibrant colors of the marketplace began to fade, the music grew somber, and the people of Ethelberg, once so resilient, began to look over their shoulders, their eyes reflecting the emptiness of the chasm below. Calen felt it more than anyone, a cold dread in his bones. Calen worked tirelessly, his hands raw, his spirit frayed. He would replace a crumbling block, only to find two more giving way nearby. He felt he was trying to hold back the tide with a sieve. The city's elders convened, their faces etched with worry, but their strategies were for physical armies, not for a plague of the spirit. They argued for reinforcements, for stronger mortar, for magical wards, but none of it touched the root of the problem. The blight was not an external enemy, it was an internal corrosion. It was turning the city's own strength against itself, and Calen was on the front line of this losing war. His own heart was a battlefield. The whispers found him as he worked high on the wall. "Why do you bother, little mason?" they would hiss with the wind. "This wall, this city, you all will turn to dust." Your effort is a single drop of rain in a vast, indifferent ocean. Give in. Let go. Rest. He would grip his hammer, his knuckles white, and try to drown the voices with the ringing of steel on stone. But the whispers were relentless. He started to see the cracks in the wall, as reflections of the cracks forming in his own soul. His hope was beginning to crumble. The breaking point came during the Festival of the Twin Moons. A section of the northern parapet, a masterpiece of interlocking geometry built by his own great-grandfather, simply gave way. It did not explode outwards. It imploded, slumping into a heap of weary dust and broken pride. A collective gasp swept through the city, a sound of profound violation. Panic for the first time took root. The elders were paralyzed by indecision. The whispering blight had breached their spirit, and the wall was now merely reflecting their inner collapse. Caelan stood before the ruin, his tools hanging uselessly at his side, the whispers laughing in his ears. He was broken. In his despair, Caelan did something he had never done. He abandoned the wall. He walked through the fearful crowds, his gaze empty, and made his way to the highest, most secluded spire of the city. There, in a small, windswept workshop filled with unfinished sculptures, lived Lyra. She was a master sculptor, ancient and blind, who had not left her spire in decades. The city folk considered her an eccentric relic, but Caelan remembered his grandfather speaking of her with a strange reverence, saying she could see the soul of the stone. He found her sitting serenely amidst her works, her sightless eyes turned towards the chasm, as if listening to a song only she could hear. "The wall has fallen, and with it our spirit," Caelan said, his voice hollow. "The blight has won. All my work, it is meaningless." Lyra did not turn. Her voice was like the slow grinding of ancient rocks, yet held a strange clarity. "You have been fighting the wrong war, son of stone. You have been trying to command the mountain, when your only task is to command the chisel. The blight does not break the stone. It merely reveals which stones were already broken inside." She beckoned him closer. "Your work is not meaningless. It has just begun. But you must first learn what it means to build." For the next month, Lyra forbade Caelan from touching the Great Wall. Instead, she gave him a single, flawed block of marble. It was riddled with cracks, impurities, and unpredictable veins of quartz. "Carve a sphere from this," she commanded. For days, Caelan struggled. Every time he struck the stone, it would chip unexpectedly along a hidden fault line. He was used to perfect granite, to predictable materials. This stone was chaos. It was stubborn. It felt malicious. His frustration grew into a burning rage. He was the city's best mason, yet he could not master this single, worthless rock. One afternoon, after a particularly disastrous fracture ruined a week's work, he threw his hammer against the wall of the workshop. "This is impossible," he roared. "The stone is flawed. It is useless. How can I create perfection from such imperfection?" Lyra, who had been sitting silently, finally spoke. "You have just discovered the first secret of becoming unbreakable," she said calmly. "You cannot control the nature of the stone. You can never control the nature of the stone. That is an external. It is outside of your power. The cracks, the flaws, the whispers in the wind, they are the stone's story. You do not get to rewrite it." She guided his hand back to the flawed block. "What you can control," she continued, her voice a low hum, "is the angle of your chisel, the force of your strike, the patience in your heart. You have been fighting the stone, trying to impose your will upon it. You have been treating its flaws as your enemy. Stop fighting. Listen to the stone. Work with its flaws. Let the cracks guide your hand. Your power is not in changing the world, Kalen. Your power is in how you choose to meet it. This is your chisel. Everything else is just weather and rock. Kalen, humbled, picked up his tools. He began again, but this time with a new intention. He was no longer trying to force a perfect sphere from the block. He was listening to it. When he found a vein of quartz, he didn't try to fight it. He polished it, making it a feature. When he approached a crack, he worked around it, incorporating it into the texture. He spent less time striking and more time observing, feeling the stone's inner tensions. He was no longer a conqueror. He was a collaborator. And slowly, miraculously, a shape began to emerge. It was not a perfect sphere, but something far more beautiful, a sphere that told the story of its own struggle. As he worked, Lyra taught him the second principle, the inner citadel. The whispering blight feeds on your reaction to it, she explained. When you despair at the sight of a crack, you give it power. When you fear its whispers, you amplify their sound. Your mind, Kalen, must become like this spire. The winds may howl around it, the rains may lash it, but the spire itself decides that it is unmoved. It is a fortress of thought, a keep built of resolve. The blight can scream at its walls, but it cannot enter unless you lower the bridge. She guided him through mental exercises. While he worked the stone, she would murmur whispers of doubt, mimicking the blight. You will fail. This is pointless. The chasm will claim all. At first, Kalen would flinch, his hand slipping. But Lyra would tap his shoulder and say, "That is the wind, Kalen. It is weather. It is not you. Return to the citadel. Observe the thought, acknowledge its presence, and then let it pass like a cloud in the sky. Your focus belongs only to the chisel, only to this present moment, only to the single strike you can control." He learned to build this inner citadel brick by brick. He learned that a feeling of despair was not the same as being defeated. A thought of fear was not the same as being a coward. They were external events like the blight itself, trying to gain entry. His true self, his core of will, resided inside the citadel, untouched and serene, observing the siege but not participating in it. He began to feel a profound calm settle over him, even as Lyra's mock whispers grew more venomous. The chaos was outside. Within, there was only the stone, the chisel, and his unshakable purpose. One morning, Lyra presented Kalen with a geode, a rough, ugly, spherical rock. "What do you see?" she asked. "A worthless stone," Kalen replied, having learned his lesson. "It is what it is," Lyra smiled. "Break it." Kalen was hesitant, but he did as she asked. With a sharp strike of his hammer, the geode split in two, revealing a breathtaking cavern of amethyst crystals, glittering with an inner light. Kalen gasped. "The ugliest stones," Lyra said softly, "often hold the most brilliant light. This is the third secret, amor fati. Love your fate." "Love it?" Kalen asked, astonished. "Love the blight, love the decay and the fear." "Yes," Lyra affirmed. "Because the blight, the struggle, the very imperfection you have been fighting against, is the hammer that breaks open the stone of your life to reveal the crystals within. Without the pressure, without the flaw, the beauty remains trapped and unseen. You believe the blight is your curse. But what if it is your greatest gift? What if its purpose is not to destroy Ethelberg, but to force it to become something stronger and more beautiful than it ever was before?" This realization struck Kalen with the force of a physical blow. He had seen the blight as an enemy to be vanquished. But Lyra was showing him it was a catalyst. a harsh, terrifying, but ultimately necessary agent of transformation. The cracks in the wall were not failures, they were opportunities. They were invitations to build with greater wisdom, to find a deeper strength. He looked at his own hands, calloused and scarred, and saw not the wounds of a victim, but the tools of an alchemist capable of turning struggle into beauty. He had to learn to love the very thing he feared. The final lesson came without a word. Lyra led Kaelin to the edge of her workshop, overlooking the vast chasm. They stood there for a long time, watching the endless winds churn the mists below. "One day," Kaelin said, his voice quiet, "this spire, the wall, the entire city, it will all be gone. The chasm will claim it." Lyra nodded, her sightless eyes seeming to see an infinite distance. "Yes," she said. "Memento mori. Remember that you will die. Remember that all you build will one day fall. This truth does not make your work meaningless, Kaelin. It makes it infinitely precious." She continued, "Because the wall is temporary, every stone you lay is an act of defiance against entropy. Because your life is finite, every breath you take with purpose is a victory. The knowledge of the end is not a call to despair, but a call to act with virtue and courage in the time you have. Do not build for eternity, for that is the domain of gods and fools. Build for now. Build with all your heart, all your skill, all your presence, because this moment is the only thing that truly exists. The blight whispers of the end. You must answer with the beauty of the now." After that day, Kaelin left the spot. He did not return to the wall as the frantic mason he once was. He returned as a philosopher of stone. He walked to the great breach in the northern parapet, where the citizens still gathered in fearful knots. He did not look at the rubble with despair, but with a calm, analytical eye. He saw not just a hole, but an opportunity. He picked up a piece of the fallen stone, one that was gray and tired from the blight's touch, and he felt its story of weariness. He did not discard it. He began to work, but his methods were completely different. He didn't just fill the gap. He started to weave the fallen stones back into the new structure. He found stones that had been stressed and cracked by the blight, and instead of hiding their imperfections, he made them the centerpieces of new mosaics. He explained to the other masons, "These stones have endured the blight. They have a story to tell. Their scars are not a mark of weakness, but a testament to their resilience. We will not hide them. We will honor them." He taught them what Lyra had taught him. He taught them to focus only on the chisel in their hand, not the whispers in the wind. He taught them to build their own inner citadels, to observe their fear without becoming it. When a mason would cry out in frustration that the blight was making the mortar crumble, Kaelin would calmly reply, "Then we shall invent a new mortar. The obstacle is not blocking the path. The obstacle is the path." His calm was more infectious than the blight's fear had ever been. A new spirit began to take hold. The people of Ethelberg watched this transformation with awe. Kaelin was not just rebuilding a wall, he was rebuilding their soul. The act of building became a city-wide meditation. Children would bring masons water, not with fearful eyes, but with looks of determined hope. Musicians would play on the ramparts, not laments, but powerful anthems that resonated with the ringing of the hammers. They were no longer victims, cowering behind a wall. They were co-creators of their own fortress, their own destiny. They were learning to love their fate. The whispering blight did not cease. In fact, as the city's spirit grew stronger, the blight's assault intensified, as if enraged by this newfound resilience. It sent winds of pure despair, storms of doubt that would make the bravest heart quail. But it found no purchase. The people of Ethelberg had learned to build citadels in their minds. They heard the whispers, acknowledged them, and then returned their focus to the task at hand. The whispers were just weather. They could not touch the core of the city's will. The climax of the siege came on the longest night of the year. A storm of unprecedented fury descended from the chasm, a psychic tempest of pure terror. The blight threw every ounce of its power at the city. It showed the people visions of their own demise, whispered their deepest insecurities, screamed of the utter futility of their existence. It was a hurricane of the soul. The citizens huddled in their homes, their hands over their ears, but this time they did not despair. They were inside their citadels, waiting for the storm to pass. Kalen stood alone on the newly finished section of the wall. The wind tore at him, threatening to rip him from his perch. The voices screamed directly into his mind, showing him visions of Lyra turning to dust, of his own hands crumbling. He closed his eyes. He did not fight. He did not resist. He allowed the storm to rage around his inner citadel. He focused on a single point of sensation, the feeling of the solid stone beneath his feet. He was the spire. He was unmoved. He had placed a single, final stone at the very heart of the new wall. It was the flawed, ugly geode Lyra had given him, which he had painstakingly sealed and reinforced, leaving its crystalline heart hidden within. It was the keystone. As the storm reached its zenith, Kalen laid his hands upon it. He did not push or pray. He simply connected with it, pouring all of his calm, his acceptance, his unbreakable will into it. He remembered Lyra's words, "The flaw is what reveals the light." A low hum began to emanate from the keystone, a vibration that traveled through the entire Great Wall. It was a frequency of pure resilience, of quiet strength, of joyful defiance. It was the song of the stone that had been broken and remade stronger. The hum spread through the city, into the very bones of the people huddled in their homes. It did not cancel out the blight's scream. It harmonized with it, transforming the court of terror into a symphony of profound, unshakable peace. The whispering blight, a force of pure negation, could not comprehend this. It expected resistance, fear, and despair. It did not know how to fight against acceptance and love. Faced with a city that refused to break, a city that had learned to incorporate its scars into its beauty, the blight's power simply dissolved. It was like a wave crashing against a cliff. All its fury was spent, and it receded back into the chasm, leaving behind only a profound, crystalline silence. The siege was over. In the morning, the people of Ethelberg emerged. The air was clean. The sky was clear. The wall stood not as a monument to victory, but as a testament to endurance. Its mosaics of scarred and flawed stones glittered in the new dawn, more beautiful than the perfect wall had ever been. Kalen was not hailed as a king or a warrior. He was simply Kalen, the stonemason. But they called him the Keystone, the man who had taught them that true strength was not the absence of weakness, but the courage to build with it. Ethelberg was unbreakable, not because its wall was perfect, but because its people had learned to be. You chosen one are Kalen. Your life, your soul, your sacred mission. That is the city of Ethelberg, a beacon of light perched on the edge of a great chasm. And the whispering blight, that is the chaos of the world, the constant barrage of external negativity and internal doubt that seeks to find the cracks in your spirit. It whispers to you of futility, of your own inadequacy, telling you that your great work is meaningless and that you are destined to crumble into dust. You have been fighting it, trying to build a perfect wall against it, and you are growing weary. The story of Caelan is the cipher that unlocks your own unbreakable nature. The flawed stone Lyra gave him represents the uncontrollable events of your life, the hardships, the betrayals, the unexpected challenges. You have been fighting them, cursing their imperfection, trying to force them into the shape of the life you thought you wanted. The revelation is this: you cannot control the stone. You can only control your response. Your power is not in preventing the storms of life, but in choosing the angle of your chisel with grace and precision. Lyra, the blind sculptor, is your own inner wisdom, your higher self. It is the part of you that can already see the soul of things, the part that understands the deeper purpose behind the struggle. Her voice is drowned out by the noise of your fear, but she is always there in her quiet spire, waiting for you to stop fighting the world and start listening to her guidance. The inner citadel she taught Caelan to build is your birthright. Your mind does not have to be a battlefield. It can be a fortress of impenetrable peace. The doubts, the fears, the whispers of others, they are merely weather. You decide if you will let the storm inside. The geode, ugly on the outside but glorious within, is the very challenge you are facing right now. The thing you fear most, the struggle you wish would disappear, that is your geode. You believe it is a curse, but the parable reveals it is a gift. It is the precise tool the universe is using to crack open your outer shell of ego and reveal the magnificent, crystalline light of your true soul. Amor Fati, chosen one. Love your fate. Bless the blight, for it is the force that is compelling you to become the magnificent being you were always meant to be. This brings us to the alchemical step. This is how you take this ancient wisdom and forge it into a weapon for your soul. It is simple, profound, and it will change everything. Tonight, before you sleep, take a piece of paper or open a journal. Draw a single line down the middle of the page. On the left side, write the heading, "The stone I cannot control." On the right side, write, "The chisel I command." Under the left column, list everything that is outside of your power. The whispers of others, the state of the world, past events, the fact that the blight exists. Pour it all out. Acknowledge it. See it for what it is, external, uncontrollable rock and weather. Then turn your attention to the right column. Here, list your choices, your response, your perception, your patience, your courage, your integrity. This column, chosen one, is the only place your divine energy should ever be spent. This is your kingdom. This is your work. Your vow is no longer to be perfect or to be untouched by the storms of life. That is the vow of a brittle statue, destined to crack. Your new vow, the vow of a keystone, is to meet the world as it is, with an open heart and an unbreakable will. Your vow is to see the beauty in the flawed stone, to love the fate that forges you, and to build a citadel of peace within your own mind. You are not meant to stop the storm. You are meant to become the unshakable rock that stands within it, a beacon for all who are lost. The ciphers of awakening are being transmitted. This is but one of many keys required to unlock your full potential and fulfill the mission your soul chose. To ensure you receive the next transmission, to continue forging your unbreakable spirit, you must stay connected to this channel. Subscribe now and ring the bell of awakening. Join the community of keystones who are rebuilding the world, one conscious choice at a time. Become who you are.